My wedding ring.
Hey guys, Savage Joy here with Real Progressives. Tonight I am continuing my 2 weeks of California candidates. And tonight I am joined by a California Independent running for Senate in District 6. And his name is Eric Frame. Thank you so much for joining us, Eric. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Um,
me, Joy. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. My gubernatorial candidate the other night, he's green running in California. I asked for suggestions, and Eric is one of the suggestions he gave. And I immediately liked his platform and also his about me type thing because we were both literature and English majors. Well, you were a minor. So that immediately just kind of, yay, he likes English and literature. So that sold me. So it is listed that you're self-employed, but can you kind of go into what you do?
Sure. Frankly, I do a lot. I own my own business. I'm a supervised visitation monitor. So when families are torn apart by divorce, sometimes the court will deem that one parent needs supervised visitation. So I'm a monitor for that parent. Let me just throw in right now that family court needs some drastic reforms. There's a lot of corruption in family court right now. And as a supervised monitor, I actually see it firsthand. So that's the business that I own. I'm also canvassing right now for rent control, and I'm collecting signatures for rent control to be on the ballot here in Sacramento. I'm also a handyman, a painter, a gardener, and I also do ride share. I started something called Uber, which is basically an offshoot of Uber. That is basically my own private, ride share with friends and family. And I'm also a pet sitter too. So I'm basically the epitome of the gig economy right now, and doing all these things at the same time just to make ends meet because the cost of living in California is skyrocketing, as we all know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. It's never boring. That's awesome. Anything with animals, right on.
Yeah.
So you do talk about rent control and homelessness and such on your platform. Um, what is it like in your district? Is there a lot of homelessness? Are people having issues paying their rent?
Yes, absolutely. Homelessness is increasing. It's been increasing at a very, very high rate recently. What we're seeing is a lot of people being kicked out of their apartments. Sacramento actually has the number one rising rents in the nation, and people are being kicked out of their apartments, especially the elderly on fixed incomes of SSI are being kicked out onto the streets. We're seeing more people in wheelchairs out there on the streets and with disabilities. And it's really deplorable that our city and our county and the state won't really do anything about it. In fact, they're doing things to make it worse for the homeless. They're making panhandling illegal. Um, Camping is already illegal here in Sacramento, and Sacramento is actually one of the first cities in the U.S. to make camping illegal. Um, the city itself is also closing down public bathrooms, saying that the public bathrooms are being trashed and being used for drugs, which may be true, but let's hire some people to look into these bathrooms because we do have more and more homelessness, and the city knows there's more homelessness, which does mean we have more urine in the streets and over by the river, and we have a buildup of urine and E. coli in the river as well. And I've been going down to the river and talking to people down there and cleaning up, picking up some trash. There's a group of homeless folk led by a man named Dan Adderholt. They call him the Moses of the homeless, and he is getting together a lot of homeless folk to pick up trash along the river, which is desperately needed. I would like to, as state senator, put together another, you know, a unifying effort to clean up the river myself, or not myself. I mean, with everyone in Sacramento, because it's, the river is our beauty, our gem, and both the rivers, I should say. And we really need to clean it up. And we shouldn't have people, elderly people, people that have just hit hard times. I'm one paycheck away from being homeless. A lot of us are. And we shouldn't have people forced to shit in buckets or shit in the streets, pardon my language. But it is quite frustrating. I've been going down to city council for years speaking about the issue. And it's frustrating to speak to city council because it's like talking to a brick wall. The answer is, well, one thing is we need public bathrooms, porta potties. That would be a start. If we're going to be a world-class city in the 5th largest economy in the world, we can start by at least having some proper sanitation. In addition, of course, we need housing, affordable housing, truly affordable housing. The definition of affordable depends on who you're asking, and it seems that the city council and other representatives in the state don't really know what affordable truly means for the people. And we also need public housing, of course. After so many people have died in Sacramento from being on the streets, we lose over 100 people a year on the streets of Sacramento. We truly need public housing at this point. And Frank, we have approximately 14,000 homeless in Sacramento County and 3,500 in the city. I honestly think the number is much higher as it has been increasing. And those are the numbers we're given, by the city and the county. So they're not to be trusted, as these are the same folk telling us what affordable is, which it's not. So there's a lot of solutions too. There's one thing I would like to see is a call for a state of emergency, because we do have so many people dying on the streets, people with long-term illnesses that are passing away. And if we call a state of emergency, what we could do is use some of the vacant buildings, vacant lots all over town. There's almost more vacant buildings than there are homeless people. And it's ridiculous in this world today that we can't use some of these vacant lots and buildings to house people. We also have a vacant Arco Arena, which is over in North Sac, Natomas area. That's been vacant, collecting dust for years. And we can hire the homeless to clean up some of these vacant buildings as well. And like I said, there's some state of emergency, which we are in a state of emergency. When people die in the streets, we need to do something about it. And unfortunately, our representation does not have the political will to do anything about it right now. There are housing bills, billion-dollar housing bills that have been passed, but they're being held up, in the legislature, which means 0 homes have actually been produced from these billion-dollar housing bills. So where's the money going? Typically, it's filling pockets. And, well, I know it's a mouthful. Homelessness is the #1 issue here, and there's all sorts of things we can do. Technically, it's not legal to feed the homeless, but we do it anyway. And that's true all over the nation, unfortunately. But there really are solutions, and it's going to take a people's movement to actually do things. And we've been pushing for tiny homes and shed housing and, of course, the public bathrooms that are needed. We have gotten the mayor to promise 1,000 tiny homes, the mayor of Sacramento, but unfortunately, we've had that promise before, and we ended up with 68 instead of 1,000. So we'll see how this mayor's done. He made the promise for 1,000 tiny homes in January, and it's May. It's almost the end of May now, and we've seen no plans or anything come of it. So we will hold his feet to the fire, and I'd be happy to replace him, and I know there's other people that are willing to replace him, and we really need a whole revamping of the city council. Luckily, there are a few good candidates right now, and there's a lot of good candidates running for higher offices, like myself, for state senate. So, those are my 2 cents on the homeless issue. We really can do something. It's up to the people these days, because our representation is just greatly lacking.
Yeah, right on. And, it's also worth pointing out that a lot of people forget that we have the upper hand right now because it's primary season. If you don't like something someone's doing and someone promised something and they're not doing what they said they would, fact of the matter is, look, you do what you say you were going to do, or you don't get our votes. We have the upper hand. We can tell them, do it or fuck off. I mean, it's that simple. So yeah, we have to, it's not just important to be a candidate. We have to also do our part as well. What is the typical rent in your district?
Well, these days the average studio is actually $1,000, which is a crazy amount for a studio. You can find some that's under, but everything is going up. Everything, unless you're lucky enough to have a kind landlord or landowner, landlord, then maybe you're getting lucky. I've ran into a few people as I've door knocked that are like, we love our landlord. He's only raised it $50 in the last couple of years, and that's the lucky ones. There are people that have their rent raised $100, $200, $300, and it's just not sustainable. And people are being forced out of this state. It's a massive effort to gentrify the state, and it's coming, starting at the Bay Area, and it's coming out, and people are just getting pushed out of this state. And it's the fault of our legislation, and it's the fault of poor representation once again, and big developers that are just trying to earn more bucks, I guess. But the average rent is increasing. Like I said, Sacramento is number one in terms of rent increase in the last year. And we do have elderly folk being pushed out on the streets. The other thing is a lot of renters have very few rights here in Sacramento. California is painted as this progressive state, but in reality, it's the complete opposite. We have people being pushed out on the street that are elderly, in wheelchairs, that have disabilities, and we want to call ourselves progressive. It's a lie. We're not progressive, and that's why we need to replace some people and become truly progressive. So it is a massive gentrification, and we're seeing bills come out that are just trying to increase that gentrification effort. And so the average studio is about $1,000. You can get lucky and find something under there. And it's incredibly hard to find something as well because we're just not building affordable housing or public housing right now. The state has a 4 million house deficit, which means we need 4 million more homes. City of Sacramento needs about 60,000 affordable homes to be built, or apartments right now. But at City Council, which is where I learn a lot of things, we are building 300 homes. We built 300 homes this last year, and none of them are affordable. So, we really need to replace some people and see what happens then. That's my take is, let's see, I'm not a fan of our current California government, or our representation. And there's people, and I'm not a fan of big government, especially as it is right now. But let's see what happens when we get good people in there and see if government can work for the people. So that's why I'm running, part of the reason.
Awesome. Someone named Randy Hicks said they'll be going to an event on homelessness at a public library on Sunday. Randy, can you just put the info in the comments, please? I'm not sure if that means it's in Eric's district or what that means. So if you could put the info. Also,
Randy's a good supporter. I said Randy's a good friend. Randy is a good friend and a supporter.
Okay.
he works for disability rights and single-payer health care and all sorts of things here in Sacramento, and I'm really proud to have him as a friend.
Awesome. Right on. You guys, can someone from the team get rid of whoever Taylor Wager is or what have you? They're distracting the hell out of me right now. But anyway, some hieroglyphics in there for no apparent reason. So your wife told me some interesting things about the incumbent, Richard Pan. He's an interesting character. He is a doctor, yet he's against single payer because he loves his big pharma and such. What are some of the other differences between himself and yourself?
Well, the biggest difference is that he's corporately funded and I'm publicly funded. We've managed to raise, you know, just enough. You know, every time we need something to come up, it's like a minor miracle. We just get enough public funding. We just got a $500 donation today from a generous
Wow.
person in South Sac area. So we're doing well with public funding, and that's the way to do it, because that way I'm not beholden to any corporations, unlike my opponent, Richard Pan. Um, Richard Pan's actually the most well-funded corporate Democrat in the state. And a big part of that funding is health insurance companies and big oil also. That's the other difference between myself and Richard Pan. Um, he neglected to vote in favor of fracking regulations, so which means he's okay with fracking continuing to occur in Sacramento, which it does. I've had constituents send me pictures of the fracking that's occurring. So that's another huge difference. Another big one that I think is incredibly important is that I actually meet with my constituents and I'm willing to debate and go to forums. We offered Richard Pan several days to come and attend our debate/candidate forum. And at first he said he was going to send a staffer. Then he decided not even to do that. And he sent us a rather condescending email, actually, to say that he would not be attending. Um, in addition, when I was working on the SB 562 bill, myself and many others were attempting to meet with Richard Pan. And it turns out that's impossible to do. You can meet with a few of his staffers on occasion, but you can never meet with this man. And a lot of people know that because they've tried. And that's just wrong. I'm someone that's going door to door every day right now and talking to the people and finding out their issues. And I deem this candidacy the most transparent candidacy of all time, because we're publicly funded. And if you want to ask me a question, email, call me. I'm actually there to respond in person, and which is unlike our opponent, Richard Pan. So if you ask me, I say sometimes I'm the antithesis of Richard Pan, and those three or four things right there are huge, huge differences. I mean, he's got over $500,000 at least in his coffers to use for the upcoming campaign. He hasn't used much for the primary because he thinks he's a shoo-in for the primary, which may be the case because we still need to educate a lot of people in this district. It's a huge district. Yeah, those are some major, major differences between he and I.
Wow. And then you do have a Dem you're running against who likes to make comments about, people of color getting shot, things like that. And yes, I said they are a Democrat. So there's your example once again. That it's not just Republicans who you have to, look into and make sure that they're actually who you want to elect. So some of the stuff I was reading about your opponent, your Dem opponent, I was just absolutely floored with some of the stuff he said. And then he says that he can't even get his best friend to donate to him.
Right.
I mean, I would drop if I were him then. So between the incumbent, yourself, and the guy I just described, who else is running, or is it just the three?
The last person is a libertarian, and we see eye to eye on some things, but we also disagree on many things, especially the health care for all, free college tuition. Those are and a raise of the minimum wage. All those things we disagree on. Basically. So we're confident in beating both the other Democrat and the Libertarian and advancing to top two because we have put the most work in. We actually gathered nearly 1,000 signatures to get on the ballot, and all the other candidates only got their necessary 40, and in some cases it was very challenging for them to get 40, and you might know which one I speak of. But yeah, we've been putting so much work in, and as an independent, we also is another difference between us and Richard Pan and the other candidates. As an independent, we're able to gained support from all spectrums. You know, even Republicans are happy to vote for me when I speak to them, because they are tired of Democratic supermajorities, you know, in the city and in the state. They're tired of the homelessness situation getting worse. They're tired of the cost of living continuing to skyrocket. And they're ready for independent candidates that are publicly funded as well. So being an independent is another huge difference. And we're trying to unite people, you know, towards a real state run by people for people, not people for representation for corporations. So, yeah, we're confident. We're really anxious to see June 5th returns, and we are confident, but and we're excited.
Hell yeah. I mean, to me, from what you're saying and from what I've, researched myself, to me, it seems kind of like you're the only progressive running. And I'm a very, very proud independent, so I always relish in being able to interview them. But you're so right on. It is the best way to unify people. It is, absolutely. And California is doing something new, where this time you are going to be allowed to vote outside your party, which is
Right.
extremely advantageous. I'm in Pennsylvania, so we're closed. So it's extremely frustrating to have to change for, 30 days or what have you if you want to vote for someone who's in another party. So now you do have electoral reform on your platform, as anyone should. I also saw that you and I were both at the Occupy DNC in July 2016.
In Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Actually, I wasn't there in Philadelphia. I couldn't make it all the way out there.
Oh, my bad. I thought it said you were. So how
Well,
is that?
maybe
How
you're
is
thinking
that?
about Josh.
I'm sorry?
I said maybe you're thinking about Josh Jones. He definitely
That
made
could
it.
be. That could be.
But I was
Um,
there in spirit, and I remember watching avidly on the TV screen all those people out there and being getting the chills seeing all those people at the fence. You know.
it was, I still have, as I say, Occupy DNC PTSD. It was intense. And, as someone who witnessed it, you know, firsthand there, it was traumatic. But also, as someone who watched it like yourself, how did that affect you? What did you want to do to change things at that moment? Is that kind of when you were inspired to run yourself?
Well, it was definitely part of the inspiration. I definitely had the desire to be out there. You know, I was considering going out to the pipeline too, the Keystone Pipeline. I was considering going out there. I was considering going all the way up to Philly as well. Um, and if I, maybe in a different time period, if I wasn't working my butt off to just try and make a living, I probably would have made it out there. But it was definitely an inspiration because, of course, I was extremely frustrated with the rigging against Bernie Sanders and watching that horrendous, um, uh, what was it? The final election pick where they picked Hillary. You know, and it was just terrible to watch. And I remember jumping in the pool and just swimming until I was super tired because I was so angry that I just, wanted to burn out all this energy and frustration. And I think I swam for like 3 hours just trying to burn out that frustration. And I think I was even screaming in my backyard, like, God, why, and things like that. And I'm sure my neighbors heard me and I didn't care because I wanted them to hear me,
No, because
But
we all knew that this could happen. We could get Trump. We all knew this. And we all knew that shit would still suck if she won. It
yeah,
would suck in a different way, but it would still suck. So at least the one good thing is that Trump inadvertently woke people up and got them off their asses. And
I
that's
agree.
something I enjoyed about reading your website. You are an actual activist. You talked about some of the things you fought for and everything, and that's really important. Pandering doesn't work. People can see through that, but the fact that you're an activist shows that you are actually fighting for things which are necessary. What are some of the things in your district which you've protested for, marched for, or what have you?
I've marched for family court reform. That was something I never thought was even occurring or necessary until constituents came to me. It's an issue not many people know about, actually, but family court is very, very corrupt. All we have is one judge making these decisions, and it tends to hurt the children more than anything. I was at I started one of my first campaign events ever was Save Our Children, which is an anti-human trafficking and child trafficking group who I have been endorsed by, the Save Our Children group. They speak about child trafficking. So Sacramento has actually been called a hub of child and human trafficking by the FBI. It's something our current representation is sweeping under the rug and not putting nearly enough resources into. So that's something very close to my heart. It's not only illegal trafficking, but there's something called legal trafficking, which ties into the family court and CPS corruption as well. So that's something I've protested for. I've also marched the streets against police brutality. We have a lot of Black, Hispanic men and women being shot down in Sacramento. Stephon Clark, Joseph Mann, Desmond Phillips. I've been out there for all these different protests. It's clear to me that our police force, they need either better training or they need to be suspended without pay instead of suspended with pay, basically getting paid vacations to kill people. And they need to use the non-lethal weapons that they have at their disposal. You know, Stephon Clark, for example, that 911 call was about a man breaking in, not necessarily Stephon Clark either, a man breaking into a car. No weapons were within the call. And when you get a call like that with no weapons, why are you going in there guns blazing? You should go in there with the non-lethal weapons. Yes, we need more de-escalation training, and we need them to actually use these non-lethal weapons that we have fought for them to have. That's what they're there for, and they take down people just as easily. What else have I protested? I've sat down at the Capitol. Before I even ran, I was a guy that would go. I protested pesticides, overuse of pesticides in Monsanto. I was actually there when the Monsanto 10 were arrested in Woodland. I was there with Fago Clark and the others at Woodland when Monsanto, they arrested 10 people for sitting in front of their entrance, and I was there in Woodland. So anti-pesticide is a big deal for me too. What else? What I was going to say is before I even started running, basically right after I returned from my trip to Spain, I'm kind of semi-known for holding a Love Revolution sign, which was my sign, Love Revolution. And I would go to basically every march available. I'd sit on the steps of the Capitol. I had police officers come to me and say I had to move just for holding this sign on the steps of the Capitol. I've marched for healthcare for all. I've been to many SB 562 events. There's got to be more, but I can't remember. I'd argue that I've been to more events, definitely than any other candidate in my race, but perhaps more than most people in Sacramento. And so I'm proud of that. And frankly, I'm a guy, since I'm an independent, I go to marches that might even come from, the right wing. That's where a lot of family court reform efforts come from, actually. And everyone can agree on child trafficking needing to be stopped and human trafficking needing to be truly investigated. So I'm happy to go to events of all kinds, and I have been. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Right on. Speaking of SB 562, it's crazy because you guys in California got closer than any of us have. But because of a Democrat named Anthony Brendan, it's shelved. So the whole country was on edge, just hoping so badly for you guys, and that didn't work out. I've read your story, and your dad's given me goosebumps because he said that your mother would be so proud, and that's like the sweetest thing in the world. So do you want to share your story about your mom and how that kind of woke you up to the need for universal health care?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so my mother was diagnosed with leukemia in 2013, and she battled through chemotherapy for 2 years, over 2 years, and she ended up passing away in 2015, in November. And frankly, the healthcare system we have has many problems with it. And one of the issues is clearly that it's too expensive. We have the most expensive healthcare system in the world. We have thousands of people going bankrupt every year to pay for their healthcare. We have people going homeless to pay for their healthcare. And that's not right, and that's why I support a single-payer bill. At the same time, I'm not a fan of the healthcare itself that we're provided. Um, since I've had to watch my mother go through chemotherapy and suffer through chemotherapy, I saw nothing come of it that was good. In fact, everything was bad. I saw her lose her hair, um, just lose so much weight, and and in fact, the chemo actually made things worse. Forced her to go through an extra surgery because it injured her, and so I'm not a fan of all this overuse of chemicals that big pharma is pushing onto us. I know people that are being pushed onto 30, 40 different medications at the same time, and it just doesn't make any sense. That's why I'm an advocate for alternative medicine and natural remedies. And I've started using more of those natural remedies, cumin oil and CBD oil and things like that. And in fact, I've actually spoken at SB562 hearings about how we as a people can right now boycott big pharma medication and go to natural remedies right now. And I think that's a way to send a message in addition to continuing to push for single payer healthcare and healthcare as a human right. So like I said, I'm a supporter of these medicines and natural remedies that have actually been suppressed by big pharma, big chemicals, and we really need a complete revamping of this healthcare system. I call it a death care system, actually, for those two reasons I mentioned. The extreme cost. Not only do we have the most costly healthcare, we also have the most deadly. And it's just not right, and that's why they're my biggest enemy, really. And there's no one more in bed with Big Pharma than Richard Pan. It's not just Rendon that put a stop to SB562. It's people like Pan who are doctors who make people out there think that single payer is not doable, but they're getting paid by getting huge contributions from health insurance companies, hospitals like Kaiser that are getting into health insurance industry, so they don't want single payer. And he is a huge reason. And he's frankly breaking his Hippocratic oath by keeping healthcare as a right away from all of us as human beings. If you ask me, health insurance never should have existed in the first place. It's a right, and proper healthcare is a human right, and that's what I say on my website. And I'm part of my campaign is about all these people that are suffering on chemotherapy, like my mother had to suffer, and there are alternatives, and they need to be offered, and I'm out there for all these people, and I'm seeing too much cancer pop up all around me, all around us, friends, family, neighbors. It's too much. We need to do a lot better, and I will be supporting a single payer bill, but I also want to make sure that single payer bill includes natural remedies and preventative care, acupuncture, things like that. And I'm out here for other people that have lost their mothers and lost their fathers and lost any loved ones to cancer, to chemotherapy. As we know, chemotherapy is actually only a 3% chance of success. So, I'm out here for those people suffering through that.
Right on. It's kind of jumping a little, but I see comments, so it kind of sparked it. Do you believe it, or do you support a federal job guarantee?
Um, well, as a state senator, I would be more of a state job guarantee. I want to create more jobs. I think there are plenty out there. I think we could hire people, hire the homeless to pick up trash, hire people to refurbish these empty buildings and turn them into housing. Um, and well, we need to create more jobs and be creative about creating more jobs. With new technology and innovations, jobs are disappearing. So there might be uh, some reason to go to a universal income as well as a possible job grants as well. But yeah, I'm all about creating new jobs, and there are things out there we can do. When we have rivers, covered in trash, and we have bathrooms that need people to have that need custodial workers to keep an eye on them. That's jobs right there that we can create easily enough. And we have highways covered in trash as well. And the city of Sacramento, what they did to pick up trash was they hired the homeless, but what they did was they paid them a $20 gift card after a day's work. So they worked all day to pick up trash and only gave people a $20 gift card. So I would actually prefer a living wage for people that work tirelessly out there to clean up this city. And a living wage in California means, a lot more than what we get right now because the cost of living continues to rise. So if we want to be able to live in actual spaces, the state either needs to build affordable and public housing or they need to raise the minimum wage, one of the two. Or they can continue to just be corrupt politicians. But we're going to replace them. So that's the plan.
The difference between a universal basic income and a federal job guarantee is the federal job guarantee is funded federally, but it is administered locally, and it basically eradicates homelessness. It Now you can have a UBI work with a federal job guarantee, but the problem with this standalone universal basic income is that when they've tried it in other countries, it has negated their social security, their unemployment. Like it literally cuts off all benefits and just gives everyone the same amount. And the average amount was about $621 per person. So it's not feasible. The federal job guarantee, it just literally guarantees every single person a job who wants one. So the things you're talking about, that's how we could accomplish that. Absolutely. Because when they are forced to give people jobs, they will start addressing these things which need to change, essentially. And somebody else brought something else up. Living wage. You're one of the very few candidates who actually says a different number than Fight for 15, and it's very refreshing. You said it should be 25. So why do you say, I mean, mathematically it should be, that's proven. They say it should be like somewhere like 23, 24 or somewhere in that realm. But are you hoping for 5 for 15 and then to raise it, or what is your goal?
Well, yeah, like you said, the cost of living in California, we should be between 25 and 30 an hour, and that's only going up. Now, that doesn't mean we can just switch it like this and not expect some ramifications. But I will be going into my position as state senator knowing that the cost of living is a need of $25 to $30 an hour. Now, if we actually built affordable housing and public housing, maybe it wouldn't have to be that high. But that's up to the state to actually get off their ass and do something, which hopefully I could do once I'm elected. But like I said, yeah, I will go into my position knowing that that is the true number. And where we also get that number is the amount of production that we, the people, have actually produced over the last several decades. Um, in relation to inflation, we should actually be at more towards 25. And the fight for 15 is another incrementalist crumb that we're given that we won't even see till 2020. So it's just another big problem. And there, of course, there's all sorts of different side notes and fine print within the fight for 15 that'll prevent a lot of people from actually getting that 15. Um, so yeah, that's where I get it. It's our production as people, as labor, and the cost of living in California. We're going to be at $30 here pretty soon because they're just not, we are not building any affordable or public housing. It's something we need to do. If big business wants to, you know, be able to hire people and actually have them live in a home, then they should help us create some more homes and living spaces, or just renovate a lot of empty spaces that we already have. There's plenty of, a lot of people say there's more empty homes than there are homeless people, and that's just another ridiculous stat. And why can't we do something about it? You know, we need. We're shifting towards a new world, a world where common sense and compassion and love are all intertwining, and there are solutions that are right there, readily available. We just need the proper leadership and the political will to do things. And we need to realize that within each of us, we have the power to do things ourselves. And if the state, if the government isn't going to do anything, even when we replace them, then it's up to us, the people, to actually build things ourselves. You know, I've actually talked and spoken of, you know, building tiny homes ourselves, and then videotaping the government and the state as they destroy those tiny homes that we just built, you know, just to show how horrid this state is and how terrible, and the priorities are so backwards. We're building arenas, we're building empty shopping malls, we're building parking garages, and we're building dog shelters before we're building human shelters, public housing, and affordable housing. It's backwards priorities. That's what our state is, completely backwards. The opposite of progressive.
Regressive, totally. The, I I can't help but think of Jimmy Carter. If you film anything like that, seriously, mail it to him because he's extremely responsive. He does not answer emails or tweets or Facebook or anything like that. It has to be, you know, a handwritten letter and something in the mail. But if there's one person I can think of that would be totally down with learning everything you're saying, he would fight for it for sure. I digress, but I didn't want to forget that. So you also, on your platform, you also talk about education reform. And you stated that after school, like many, you did have a lot of college debt.
Yeah, that's right. I'm actually one of the lucky ones. I had half of a scholarship, so now I'm only $30,000 in debt. Typical student coming out, a lot of them are in the six figures, over $100,000 in debt, and it's debilitating people, and it's just very depressing, frankly. And it's discriminatory to keep, you know, the poor and lower middle class from higher education, and it's also not economically, you know, sound or smart. We should be granting people the right to a higher education for free. I believe in the public tuition free and community college tuition free. Um, on top of that, like many of my platforms, it's kind of a two-tiered thing. Not only is school too expensive, but it's also, we're not being taught properly. It's not proper education, you know. So just like proper healthcare, proper education is another thing I'm shooting for, and that is the fact that we actually overwork our children. America and USA, we give our children hours and hours of homework after having hours and hours of schoolwork, and it's overstressing our children. We are focusing way too much on the test and not enough on social skills. I actually want more recess, and I want less testing, which should be something that young people would be for. We actually do need more recess because we need more social skills, and we need more social skill classes as well. My generation, the generation below me, are lacking in social skills. We see a lot of people with earbuds in their head, not interacting with people at all. And So that's something I want. I also want a raise for teachers because a happy teacher is also creates happy students. And at the same time, we have a great increase in special needs students these days. More and more special needs kids are coming into our education system, and we just don't have the special needs infrastructure within our education to help all these kids that are special needs. So we need more special needs classes and special needs teachers. And yeah, so all those things are vital for proper education. In addition, finally, uh, the history we are taught is not always correct, is it? History is written by the victors. I'm really grateful to my eighth grade teacher. One of the first things she taught me was um, this, turn of phrase, his story. That's what history kind of is. It's his story, not just because we have a overly male-dominated world, but also because history is written by the victor. So it is his story. It's not necessarily the truth, and we're finding that more and more often as we learn more things about the past and things like that. So there are actually a lot of education reform needs that I am for. I would also push for uh, you know, having less pesticides used at our schools. I want filtered water fountains mandated at our schools as well, just for our kids' health. I think we need to look at our lunches being provided at schools and what's being put in those. I want GMOs out, completely. I don't really want them labeled. I just want them out because I don't think they're natural. So that's a ton of different education reform things that I believe in and that I think a lot of people are on board with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You on your platform you have uniting the people. And I found that really just I really connect with that because I try to get my candidates to talk about that and they don't always go there. But as an independent, I think you understand that. What are some of the things that you can do to make people to try and bridge this massive divide between burners and greens and Hillary supporters and everything? What can we do? Because it's freaking bad. Like it's
Yeah.
bad. Our movement went from a family of millions to very divisive.
hmm Well, what you're talking about is divide and conquer, right? That's what actually has been happening for thousands of years. The people have been made to be divided, and we see that just with our, Republican side, blue, greens, yellows, and all this. Um, but what we're doing already is we're speaking to a ton of people in my district, and I'm reminding people that we are the 99% and that we need to be united in order to remove this oligarchy that is overwhelming us with control efforts and all these things. I'm advocating for more people to go independent. I think that's a good thing. No party preference, because we do see division within parties. We see divisions because of the party system. Um, and I'm reminding people that we're all victims, whether you're a victim of this horrendous family court corruption or CPS corruption, or you're just a victim of becoming homeless because of the cost of living in California. We're all in this together, and we really need to continue to realize that. And I'm happy to say that a lot of people that I speak to out there are ready to vote independent. They've got D's and R's next to the name, but they're ready to vote independent. And we're seeing the light. A lot of people know about the whole divide and conquer situation and the fact that we do need to be united. I want to see a massive people's movement to see the real change that we can have. I mean, this world can be a paradise. It has been a paradise before, and we can go back to that. Right now, it's not. We have a government that's very controlling, pushing things on us that are unhealthy, and and dividing us at the same time. So we're all in this together, whether you're red, blue, or green. We're all in this together, and we need to continue to realize that, and we need to be open-minded to what other people are feeling, what they feel they're being victimized by. So that's the plan, to continue talking to as many people as possible. And I'm seeing a big difference already. The fact that I can gain Republican voters, Democrat voters, I have the endorsement of the Green Party and Peace and Freedom Party, and I spoke to a libertarian just yesterday who's going to vote for me. So we have all these different people that are uniting behind, a publicly funded candidate like myself, and we can do this again and again and again until we have that political revolution that we needed and desired.
Absolutely. I always leave my shows with, what do you want to leave our viewers with? But that was like so perfect. I think I just want to leave it with that. I don't know how you could top a speech about unity. Would you like to give your website and Twitter and Facebook and all that info?
Sure, absolutely. The website is ericframeforsenate.org, and you can donate on there. Like I said, we are publicly funded, so we rely on public donations. We don't have any corporate money coming our way, and we have been doing well, but we can always use more. Like I said, we're running against a man who's got more corporate money coming his way than any other representative in California. So ericframeforsenate.org, please donate. You can find me on friend request me on Facebook, Eric Frame. My Facebook page is Eric Frame for State Senate 2018, and please like that page. We have over 745 likes, and they're real likes. A lot of candidates actually buy likes on Facebook, but we don't do that. We're already up to 745 real, authentic likes. So please like the Facebook page. And, the YouTube channel. Look me up on YouTube, Eric Frame. At that channel, you can see some of my speeches that I make at City Council in Sacramento. And they are good speeches, if I do say so myself. And we also have I also put up a lot of other public speeches from City Council. If you're local, please get in contact with me to volunteer. You can find my info at ericframeforsenate.org. There's an email on there. And we do have door hangers that we're ready to go door to door. Well, we have been, but we're getting even more, and we need more volunteers. But ericframeforsenate.org. Please donate. My Twitter is Senator Frame, at Senator Frame. And do we have an Instagram? We have an Instagram. I guess just look up Eric Frame and it should pop up. Our slogan, I don't know if you can see it on there, is Think Big Picture. And it's really clever because my name's Frame, so, like a picture frame. But that's what we need to do, and that's part of the whole uniting thing, is we need to think big picture. The big picture is that we are the 99%, all of us, and we are being controlled by this oligarchy that we can replace. And if we can't replace them by some form of rigging of elections or anything, it's time for us to do the job ourselves and do things without permission. And one last thing I would like to say, just to finish off, is that I walked through Spain, with my father after my mother passed away, and that was a wonderful experience. You may have read about it, Joy, on my bio there. And it was great to meet people from all over the world, who we also need to unite with, of course. But one thing I constantly saw as a graffiti message is that love is the answer. And I truly believe that. And that's going to be part of the uniting too. We need to love each other, whether we're red, blue, green, yellow, whatever. So love is the answer, and go out there and love people. They cannot stop love. It's the most powerful energy in the world, in the universe. So let's just continue to love each other. And yes, please love each other.
I love hippie candidates. They're my favorite.
I know it sounds corny, but it is the answer.
No, we need more love up in here. Like we do. It's lacking. We need more love and more empathy. Absolutely. More solidarity. They're nice words, but we need to see it more. So I appreciate any candidates who are willing to say that. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm doing 8 shows within 5 days this week because it's California on Tuesday. So on Tuesday, there are 8 states which have primaries. There's California, Alabama, Iowa, Mississippi, Montana, New Jersey, South Dakota, and New Mexico. So we have 8 primaries Tuesday. You guys have to get off your asses. If you're in California or you know people in California, please share tonight's show, any of my shows from the past 2 weeks. I have personally, RP does not endorse, so I want to, get that disclaimer out. But I have personally endorsed Gail McLaughlin and Stephen Jaffe. So if you're in those, well, Gail, you can vote regardless where you are in California. And if you're in San Fran area, please vote for Stephen Jaffe against the shill Pelosi. But yeah, check out my other California videos. We need to vote. I know it sucks and I know it's hard and I get it, but we have to vote. So I found out today that the amazing Ron Placone is joining me tomorrow. He messaged me and he's coming back for a second dose of Savage. So we will have some comic relief tomorrow at 2:30. He's from the Jimmy Dore show. He's the howdy little punk rock guy. So he'll be joining me tomorrow at 2:30, and then tomorrow night at 9, I have the awesome Jovanka Beckles, she'll from California. She'll be joining me as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Eric. Best of luck. I really wish you well. And thank you so much for joining. And if you guys are in his district, please help Canvas Phone Bank hook him up with whatever he needs till Tuesday. Thanks, Eric. Best of luck. Absolutely.